Welcome back to the channel. We are partway through day 4 of the Icosa contract, and I'm going to keep posting videos about Icosa as long as I think there are things worth knowing and it remains interesting to me. I'm going to just be sharing with you what I'm looking into and my thoughts for you guys to decide and think for yourself. So far, this has been a pretty fun project to follow. And so far, I feel pretty good about the videos I've posted. I posted before Icosa launched because I was saying there can be advantages for getting in projects like Icosa early. That just tends to work that way, and I've been saying it about that simply. And so far, it is appearing that I was correct. There were advantages already in the first 4 days for being early. If you're one of the people that listened and got into Icosa early, if you got in on the first day, you had some pretty good returns that day, and good for you. But I want to go ahead today and do some really quick number crunching. I've already crunched the numbers. I just want to show them to you. I think and this is going to be specifically for the Icosa staking pool within the Icosa project. And that is, of course, at app.icosa.pro. What I want to focus on today is what we are seeing so far as returns for this pool. I've talked really quickly, really simply showing what my returns have been from my 12,164 Icosa. You can see here the total amounts, but I want to try to add a little bit more meaning to these particular numbers, and like the numbers themselves I feel like aren't as valuable as you need to attach those to a goal or something else that then makes those numbers meaningful. And specifically within this pool, that's one thing I'm looking forward to doing really simply and straightforward, I hope, today. So basically what I have done is created a little spreadsheet here. We've got 3 days worth of data to look at. What is this data telling us, and what is some meaning we can attach to this number to get some idea of what these numbers mean? So that is what I am doing. So I'm going to just really quickly try to explain what I'm doing here. So this is just my accumulated total every day. So, the first day I had 90, the second day 172, the third day I had 246 Icosa in the Icosa pool. So this is specifically talking about Icosa in the Icosa pool. And I went ahead and just added the specific amount of Icosa I got every day. So not the total, but how much did I actually get that day. So I got 90 the first day, 82 the second day, 73 the third day. I went ahead and calculated the percent change. Actually, the percent 82 is 90%, 90.56% of 90, and 73 is 89% of 82, just to see what kind of drops we're having or potentially rises if there's a day that there is more, which I want to talk specifically about that, because these numbers will not trend one direction. I can almost guarantee you, especially with Icosa. Icosa will have it will not just slowly drop over time forever. The returns will not. I'll talk about that probably at the end of this, but let's keep going. So, and another way to look at it is the change. So the day one change versus the day 2, there was a 9.44% drop. Day 2 versus day 3, 10.85% drop. So here we are talking about numbers. These need to be attached to something that we can actually wrap our heads around. And so I'm going to do that really simply right over here. So here's some of the same ideas. Just quantifying stuff. I just did it versus the first day. So the third day was 80% of the return of the first day. I find that sort of interesting because if you got in on the third day, it's kind of interesting to know what your return is versus people that did get it on the first day for Icosa. So that's why I calculated that number. But here is where some of this gets a little bit more useful. So I wanted to calculate how many days with this return in Icosa until I earn back my principal. So basically, really clearly, all I'm really trying to calculate here is let's get rid of that. How long until this number equals this number? How long until I have 100% return? I want to see 12,164 Icosa yield right here. How long until that happens at the current rates? Well, that's what I calculated based on the individual daily return. So if this first day was to continue, it would take 134 days to get 12,164 Icosa. Yesterday, was the lowest return so far, but how many days for that until I reached my total principal? So I'd have twice as much Icosa. 166 days. Okay, that's interesting. Of course, you guys can decide for yourself if you think that's good or not. So far, I have no problems with that. And then I went ahead and calculated the APR based on each day. So basically, if the first day's return was to continue, I would have a return in a year 272% of my initial investment. So I'd basically have 2.7 times the amount just in interest, not even counting the initial investment. So and even on the third day, it would still be at the end of the year. If that rate was to continue, it'd be 219% return. And just to be clear, this is in addition. So I would have over double in just the interest, not counting the 12,164 Icosa that I put in. So that is, I think, a little bit more meaningful as something to think about when you're looking at these numbers. I hope that is helpful. I went ahead also and calculated the average APR so I just took the average of these numbers, and it's 246% average so far. So that's just Icosa. This is all great. Hedron is a little bit more interesting, and Hedron specifically for me is what I care about most in this Icosa pool. And these numbers look a little different, and let's just do that. Let's look at these. So did the same thing. Here's my accumulated totals for the 3 days. Here's the actual return I got per day for Hedron in the Icosa pool. And here are the percentages versus the day before. So this day 2, I only got 10.8% return compared to the first day. So there was an 89% drop in return in Hedron from the first to the second day. The third day, the drop was clearly not nearly as severe. It was a 36.05% drop from the second to the third. So the drop is slowing, at least at this very, very, there's not a lot of numbers we're comparing here. This is 3 days worth of data. But the drop in Hedron is slowing. But let's look and see what is the return looking like. So let's ask those same questions. How many days until I earn my principal back? I almost earned in the first day. I got to talk about this. Where did I get the Hedron from that I'm comparing this return to? I'm comparing this return to the total amount of Hedron in the HSIs that I gave to the contract. So let's make that really clear. So how did I get this Icosa, this 12,164 Icosa? I put in wrapped hex stakes. I gave those tokenized stakes to the contract in return for Icosa. Those stakes had Hedron associated with them, and the Hedron that I'm using for these numbers is the mintable Hedron and all future Hedron that could be minted or borrowed against. So it's the total number of Hedron. So just to talk about this again, the total amount of Hedron that I gave to the Icosa contract, I almost got back in the very first day. That's a pretty good return for one day. That's a pretty good return for one day. And then obviously this is the second day's was almost a 90% drop from the first day, but still it would only take me 9.6 days, 9.7 days to get all my Hedron back at that rate. Still, the third day was a lot smaller than the first day, but even then a little over 2 weeks, and I've got all the Hedron back for those stakes. And you go ahead and put those in APR. If the first day was to continue in Hedron, there would have been a 34,854% return on the first day. I don't think we're ever going to have more than that. I don't think we're going to have ever more than that. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. As I'm saying, there is something big coming up. I've been talking about it, and I'll probably talk about it really quickly again at the end of this. And then even the third day's return, it's still a 2,406% APR. And then just for fun, the total average APR in Hedron for the Icosa pool is 13,674% right now. So the Hedron that I've given to the pool is giving me a pretty good return in Hedron. Of course, with those stakes, I gave up hex as well, and this is not taking that into account. But I think those are a little bit more meaningful numbers than just looking at the numbers themselves. And I'm hoping that this helps a little bit. So I do want to talk about, I'm going to keep talking about this because I think it's something to pay attention to. All the people like me that put their HSIs into this HSI buyback, those are going to come back in the Hedron active liquidations. This is hedron.pro. They're going to show up here in roughly 90 days from the start of the Icosa project. And as I've said before, at this current time, there's 3,485 of these HSIs coming back, and this is where you can pay in Hedron and get hex. You can get these HSIs and the hex associated with them back, and I don't want you guys to miss that. And when I am sitting here also, and I was talking about Icosa saying that these numbers are not going to go down forever. These continual 90% drops, it's not going to be a linear down, because I am extremely confident that at least in 90 days, there is going to be a lot of Hedron burnt. And when that happens, when the Hedron is burnt, it's going to come back in this pool as Icosa. And the yields during that time at least are going to be bigger than they've been probably leading up to it. There's going to be a lot of Hedron burnt at that time. And so, there's lots of games that can be played during that time, and I'm going to continue to focus and try to build a strategy looking forward to that myself, and I will be sharing that with you. But in the meantime, here's some numbers for you. I hope this is helpful. Let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you in the next video. Thanks for watching.